Well, I don't know if you've been waiting for it or not, but it's here. It's the freeform segment. It is the Society Sound Off, where we just talk about whatever the hell we want for pretty much under an hour, maybe usually less. But one couple things that we can guarantee is Davey's gonna have a diatribe, and I didn't click. That's Jay Money, everybody. I'm your host, Jonathan Betzler. You've already seen Jay Money, one of our hosts. She took down the sign too soon.
No, you were going off for a while.
Well, I know. I was trying to explain the sound off, trying to give a little explanation here. Too long. Well, I'm sorry. I feel context is important. So this is Davie. He's gonna have a diatribe pretty soon. Dave Joseph, and I'm Jonathan Betzler, and they call me JB. And later on in this broadcast, I'm going to reveal my top 5 Bond films of all time because I don't do freeform so well. So with that in mind, J Money has some leftovers, some carryovers that he wants to talk about from the classic discussion where we talked about a number of things: Grand Hotel, All About Eve, Annie Hall, Chinatown, all in the mix. So let's see what he has to say.
That's right. Let me say this. The first thing is a tidbit about our last film that we discussed, The Grand Hotel, from our classic. The second thing is more of a theory about our indie film, Greenberg. Let me jump into Grand Hotel. I don't know if you guys did any kind of deep dive on the cast list in Grand Hotel, just in general, if you look through people on IMDb or whatever. I did, just because I like to do that.
I mean, it depends what you mean by deep dive. Like, I knew of the cast list, and I certainly know... Is this about Jean Horschel?
Nope. Actually, this is about Mary Carlisle. Did you look up Mary Carlisle?
No.
She had a very small part. She's apparently a bit player that was in Hollywood in general throughout the 30s and 40s. She is the woman at the very end who is the newlywed that comes in with her new bride, her new husband, to get a suite and to start over the entire mix of great stories. And the reason I bring her up at all is because she is still alive. Mary Carlisle somehow made it through the last 100 years. She is 101 years old, still kicking in Boston, Massachusetts. And to me,
cool.
It's fantastic. Yeah. The fact that there is somebody that was part of this production and who is represented very well, I think, in this film, just in general. She was, a very pretty face for the time, is still around and can still talk about it. Just blows my mind. The fact that there was a direct line between what we viewed at that point and reality right now as we know it is amazing to me. I just want to point out, everybody should talk.
I mean, you found this out through a commentary or through a Wikipedia search or something?
Yeah, Wikipedia searches, basically, yeah. So.
And did she have something specific about the production that you thought was interesting to say? Like, did she share any stories?
I didn't get that far in the research. I was still just impressed that she was still around, that she was still making it happen. So, Mary Carlisle, salute to you. Fantastic at 101, I'm sure.
If only we had a photo of her, I could have put it up.
That's okay. People can do the research if they want. This is all about extracurricular activity at this point. The second thing I was going to talk about, in terms of Greenberg, and this is just a little thing in my mind, was Greenberg kind of like the Dazed and Confused of the 2010s? I mean, there were so many people that were involved in Greenberg who had very small bit parts, but still at this point are relatively well known. I mean, there was Mark Duplass who was in there for a second. There was Mara Weaver. There was Brie Larson. Jeremy Jason Lee obviously was in it for a little bit. Even
Juno Temple, who was in
Juno
Black
Temple
Mass.
was in it. Dave Franco was in it. And I was going to say Zosha Mamet was in it for like a second as well. It's amazing to me that this was a movie that pulled together so many different actors of an independent spirit into one place, even if they were not really there for they were there very momentarily in the movie, and they were also not necessarily interacting with each other. It just seemed like one of those movies that was a uniter. And it feels like every generation, or at least
I think Noah Baumbach is just a director that people want to work with, and
absolutely. But I also feel like this is a movie that was made in 2010, and even in the 5 years since then, these are all names that maybe have gotten even a little bit more notorious. A little bit, I don't know.
Well, I can pretty much almost guarantee Brie Larson's going to get an Oscar nomination this year.
Brie Larson's definitely got the risen to the top. Zosha Mamet has obviously become much more prominent in the 5 years since then. Mark Duplass, I would say, even has become much more prominent.
For sure. Davey looks pretty bored by this whole...
No, I'm riveted. It's good.
I don't like any.
Well, my connection to Greenberg, if you want to go there, is the lead actor from my film, Homecoming. It was in Noah Baumbach's first film called Kicking and Screaming in 1995.
Absolutely.
And as was Eric Stoltz. And the three of them share a building in New York, and they each live on a separate floor. So they to this day now they have families and stuff. They share a building in the West Village, and they each live on a separate floor. Josh is the top floor, and so they are still connected. 20 years later now, since it's been 20 years since Kicking and Screaming, so all that drama Noah Baumbach went through, Josh was there, a part of it. And my favorite story about that is apparently we were shooting our film while Noah was in post on The Squid and the Whale, and apparently Josh had to sit when Noah went to screen Squid and the Whale for him. They did it in his apartment with Noah's parents. So it was Josh Hamilton and Noah's parents watching Squid and the Whale. And if you've seen Squid and the Whale, you must imagine how uncomfortable Josh must have been watching this clearly autobiographical movie that doesn't shine such a good light on those parental figures. Have you seen Squid and the Whale? It looks like Davie Joe's doing internet research right now.
No, I just got a notification on Facebook, so I'm trying to shut it off.
Great. Thank you, Davie Joe, for being a participant in this conversation. I really appreciate it.
I didn't. Could you hear that? It made a noise, and it freaked me out. I'm like, oh my god.
We did not hear that, but have you seen Squid and the Whale?
I have seen Squid and the Whale. I'll tell you what. It's been a long time. The thing that really bothered me about that movie, and it's a great movie. Don't get me wrong. But doesn't the kid he plagiarizes, or he plays the Pink Floyd song? Am I confusing it? All right, now I am doing internet research.
Okay, well, you like the movie. So does anyone remember obviously Jesse Eisenberg is the older brother. Do you remember the younger brother?
Yeah.
Do you remember who he is?
No, I don't remember who he is.
His name is Owen Klein, son of Kevin Klein and Phoebe Cates.
Ah, okay. That's cool. There you go.
Fun little tidbits. Tidbits are flying. Tidbits are flying the sound off.
I mean, it's a small world, and I guess getting back to my point, it's great to see every 10 years as a project that it seems like everybody who's interested and talented at the time is interested in doing.
Well, in this case with Owen Klein, Phoebe is best friends with Jennifer Jason Leigh from their time together at Fast Times at Ridgemont High. So they're still good friends, and Jennifer got Phoebe and Kevin to both be in The Anniversary Party, a film she directed with Alan Cumming in 2001, I want to say it was.
And
then they got Owen Klein to be in Anniversary Party as like a 3 or 4 year old type kid, or maybe a little older, maybe 6 or 7. So that's how Noah Baumbach knew Owen Klein.
Interesting.
All ties together.
That was I would say that was a really brave performance for Owen Klein.
Oh, without a doubt.
That was yeah.
And it just goes to show the sort of familial world of New York independent filmmaking. Not so much out here, but New York independent world tends to be incestuous, and Noah Baumbach took that to another level with his post-Greenberg dalliances. Davie Joe, are you ready? You done your internet research? You ready for your diatribe?
Let me real quick. Squid and Whale. So it's Hey You. It's the Pink Floyd song that he wins. He wins the talent show for claiming that he wrote it. And it just bothered me to no end when I watched that movie that no one realized it until later. Come on, it's Hey You. It's Pink Floyd. It's a song that's on the radio every 4 seconds. No one picked up on it until later.
What radio stations are you listening to?
Oh, come on, dude.
Really, Hey You is on the radio station that you listen to? It's on every 4 minutes?
If you put on any kind of classic rock station, you're going to...
Yes, if I put on any kind of classic rock station, I will absolutely agree with you. Who knows if the children of today are listening to classic rock at this point?
Well, apparently Owen Klein was when he was playing the younger brother of Noah Baumbach in the film Squid and the Whale.
Certainly. Very convenient excuse.
Yeah, anyway...
By the way, the Squid and the Whale actually does still freak me out to this day. I mean, the actual literal Squid and the Whale that they're talking about.
Oh, in the museum.
Yeah, I have the same visceral reaction to it every time I go there.
And I also just want to announce we have a new follower on Twitter. So we want to say hi to at WD Filmmaker. Hi, WD Filmmaker. Thanks for following us.
Thank you.
We're very excited. You followed us in the middle of a show, so you get a shout out.
We'll see if he's still following us 5 minutes from now.
Well, why wouldn't you not?
I don't know. Maybe we freaked him out. All the people that are going to be flocking to his Twitter right now they're going to blow him up. So
maybe. But they got to blow us up first. In the meantime, are you finally ready for your diatribe?
Yeah, I am. Put it up there. All right, so this is going to be real quick. This is going to be real quick.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll make it long enough. I need to go to the fridge to get a new beer since this one spilled all over the place. So,
yeah, all right.
Vamp a little bit for me.
Finally,
for the first time in the sound off, we've been waiting forever to Davie get mad about something. Davie, you mad?
Yeah, I'm a little irritated.
All right, take it away, Davie.
Look, here. This is real quick. There's not a lot to say here, but I'm just gonna throw it out there that if you have a really, really, really bad cough, maybe you don't go to the movies that day. Maybe you skip it. Maybe you wait until you're feeling better and you go see a movie another day. Just throwing it out there. Not that I didn't like the dude with pneumonia at the Bond film the other day, but yeah, that was. I mean, here's the you watch the movie and yeah, okay. Obviously, an issue is that you can't hear anything. Okay, whatever. But if it's to the point where I was wondering, like, is this guy's gonna die? This guy is going to die. Like it was a distraction.
David Joe, it is said that laughter is the best medicine. So
yeah.
Perhaps I should have picked a better movie, but Spectre was pretty funny. You have to give it that.
Frequently unintentionally so.
Yeah, frequently unintentionally so.
Well, you never know with those things. You know, there's a silliness that they inject into the Bond films.
Was this actually? Are you okay, or are you sick?
I'm fine. Well, you know.
I don't know. You look a little pale. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, it's you know, anyway. All right.
Get that Carolina cough going on.
Is the weather changing a lot out there? Because it's gotten very cold here.
It's chilly and it's raining. It's been raining here forever. In fact, I went to Cleveland last weekend so I could see the sun.
That is the most.
That's his best line of all 19 episodes, everybody. You just witness it here in the sound off. Davie Joe breaks out with that line. So with that in mind, Davie, are you going to be around for the holidays? Should we go see a Sixers game in Philadelphia?
Oh yeah, you know what? Maybe we can. Maybe we can do that. Let's talk. Let's talk.
Around what time are you going to be around?
The 2nd to like the 26th, 27th, something like that.
Oh wow, that's like almost all January.
I'm talking about December, but
okay.
But
well, we'll have to talk. I'm not sure I'll have enough money because like some of the jobs I'm doing, I don't get paid till the end of December. But
yeah, we can talk.
With that said, though, that's very exciting. I wanted to share with you guys that I had to switch to Dos Equis. Our new sponsor, now that Goose Island IPA spilled all over this place. So I switched to Dos Equis. What are you drinking, J Money?
Martini, stirred, not shaken, 3 olives.
Oh, of course. Why didn't you call attention to that sooner?
I thought I tried to.
Are you not getting enough screen time, J Money? Is that what I'm about to hear?
That's what it feels like. Yeah, I don't know why I don't get my proper due, but here we are.
Well, let's see what the audience says about your amount of screen time. See if they feel like it's a little too little. Somehow, I'm not so sure.
Maybe.
Let's see what happens.
WD Filmmaker, was that his name? Maybe he'll.
At WD Filmmaker, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see what he has to say.
Yeah. Well, I'm very curious. So, and I don't see anything going on here in terms of feedback. Oh, and WD stands for William Dickerson, apparently.
Oh.
So there you go.
I was so hoping it was for the lubricant, but that's okay.
What's that?
I was so hoping it was for the lubricant, but that's okay. That's fine.
Oh my God.
Are you guys ready to move on?
Yeah. Let's.
I told my people that the top 5 would start at 7:20, and it's 7:19. So this is kind of exciting.
Ooh, do I have 30 seconds? Okay, never mind.
Oh. Do you want 30 seconds?
No, I'll ask you afterwards.
Okay. Is it related to this?
Nope.
Okay. So, all right, it's time for the top 5 Bond films. 7:20 Pacific, and I didn't see this earlier. Look at that! Look at the detail that Jay Money put into this graphic, Davey. He's got.
That is really nice.
You have all 6 Bonds down here.
That's right.
We could not do any better if we had a professional graphic artist.
Wow.
Making these.
That just happened.
Wow. All right. You know what? I'll call you when I'm in jail. So we'll call you professional criteria
Wow.
here.
Yeah. Apparently, yeah. That's.
All right. Well, I'm probably going to bed right after this. So.
All right, guys. So I'm going to start with number 5, but I mean, like, one thing that I want to sort of talk about here is, shoot, did I mess this up? Is I want, as we go along, I'd love to, like, for the discussion to sort of, examine also how the Bond legacy is affected by each of these films and each of the eras of the film, because we talked in the Spectre conversation about it being such a venerable franchise, 24 films in 53 years, amazing, and with 6 different Bonds, one of which only did 1, another one only did 2 films, so it's fascinating and how the characters evolved over the years, and also, it's interesting how even though it's a franchise, how they all connect to one another. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And if they do, and that's something we talked a lot about over drinks on Friday night with my gang. So after the top 5, maybe we can talk about that as well. And this top 5 is difficult because it's almost sometimes feels like that each of the eras needs to be judged separately somehow.
Sure.
Yeah.
And because I mean, like, Connery was very different from Moore, who's different from Craig, who's different from Brosnan, who's different from Dalton, and who the fuck knows what Lazenby would have become. I just dropped in that file. I just realized that. So and the first 4 were pretty easy. Like, I knew what my first 4 were. I labored over this 5th one for the longest time, but I given how much I have some of the others, felt like maybe I should give some love to Daniel Craig, and so. So yeah, in the Survivor. No, sorry. So I'm going with Casino Royale as my number 5, as being probably the strongest of the Craig movement. And when we talked about Spectre, I talked about how a lot of personalizing, things for Bond were, felt unnecessary. And connecting the villains to him somehow, and it was, I disliked that. But in this case, there was some personal stuff going on, and it felt appropriate because the Vesper Lynn thing was always a part of the backstory. So it felt like this was a Bond. Like, whenever we saw Bond before, it was always, after this moment, this Casino Royale would have taken place theoretically before any of the other ones in the legacy of Bond.
Sure.
So it was like a prequel in that regard. So I bought it. I bought all the Vesper Lynn stuff. It felt appropriate. I also like this particular scene because for all the great action, I mean, most people remember the parkour sequence in Casino Royale, and that is one of the most outstanding sequences in all of Bond, I think, in the opening of Casino Royale, the opening action sequence. One of the top 5, probably top 10. But this scene is unique to me. This very long poker scene, in that it is it's uncharacteristically fireworks without actual action. Like, it's subtext, it's intensity, without punching and flying and gadgets and things. It was smarts and poker faces and all those things. Was actually very, very effective to me. And also, I thought as a Bond girl, Ava Green was terrific, and I could see why one would want to. I didn't mind her being the love of Bond's the theoretical love of Bond's life. That matched, the image in my head as Vesper Lind. So that's my number 5. What do you guys got on Casino Royale?
I'll have to watch it sometime.
You've never seen it?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen it.
I'm surprised.
I know.
I'm shocked, actually.
So how did you? Did you watch Quantum of Solace and Skyfall?
I've seen Skyfall.
You've not seen Quantum of Solace?
No.
So why?
I don't know. I just wasn't seeing a lot of movies back then.
So it's interesting. How did you approach Skyfall and Spectre? Because more than Bond films usually are, Skyfall and Spectre were like actual sequels.
I read some stuff, but yeah.
It's not the same, right?
I do, and I didn't know. I didn't know that until it was too late. But
he didn't know it wasn't the same until it was too late. You should see Casino Royale at some point. I mean, I think you're gonna love it.
I've heard it's great.
But Jay Money doesn't think so. I don't think.
No, I really like Casino Royale. I just want to go back to what I was saying before, which is that, they set up this relationship between Bond and Eva Green to be the basis for everything, for his neuroticism and for his self-doubt and everything else, which is fine. I understand that. I just wish that she was in the movie from the very get-go then, as opposed to coming into it by the end of the second act, because I feel like she wasn't given enough time, and they didn't have enough time to develop the kind of relationship that we need to form the basis for his personal problems with these relationships.
It's possible that, the rest of the backstory, like I filled in those gaps for myself. Like, I'm allowing that possibility that knowing, always hearing about the girl that broke Bond's heart, you know what I mean? Like years ago.
So this is the reason I like Skyfall, because Skyfall sets up M as sort of a mother figure that Bond never had. And
so does Quantum of Solace and Casino Royale.
What?
So does Quantum of Solace and Casino Royale. That mother thing has been a theme running throughout the Craig series.
But I feel like that comes up to a head in Skyfall, especially with the end of Skyfall.
Sure, but I mean, they go to his childhood home? What?
Okay, I understand that you feel like that movie is too direct. I get that, but we're talking about James Bond here. It's not about subtlety. It's not about subtext.
But I mean, the Craig series was setting itself up to be about subtlety, and I mean, for all the silliness of some of the other Bonds, they never
I don't think it was. I think that was a red herring. I think that they were suggesting they were going to be that way, but I don't think that the execution of Casino Royale was in any way subtle. I really don't. I liked Casino Royale. I'm not going to disagree with your assessment here. I actually really like the movie quite a bit, and I also really like Mads Mikkelsen, right? Mads Mikkelsen. I'm mad for Mad. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, we've had a bit of Mads Mikkelsen here.
Although I would say that his facial disfigurement is very close to the facial disfigurement that happened in Spectre, which is kind of upsetting because in a lot of ways I thought when I watched Casino Royale that he was going to evolve into that character.
Into Blofeld?
Yeah.
What about so what's the best Craig then? Is it Skyfall for you or Casino Royale?
Skyfall is for me. I really enjoyed watching the process of him be taken apart. I know we disagree about this. That's fine. I'm willing to make peace with that one way or the other. But, ultimately, at the end of the day, I can pick a best Bond that's not Daniel Craig. So if you want to continue, by all means, continue.
You said you're not going to pick a best Bond that's Daniel Craig, right? That's what you said?
I said I could pick a best Bond, and it's not going to be Daniel Craig. So.
Right. So, well, we're agreed on that. Then I'm done with Daniel Craig on my list. And this is going to be the last, Roger Moore. The best of the Roger Moores, I think, is For Your Eyes Only. This one is, for me, one of the more interesting plots in the Roger Moore series. It's probably the last Moore film before his films start to get silly. This is the last one before Octopussy and A Time to Kill, films that I really just rejected. But this film had more of an edge to it, had a really interesting plot, a lot of plot twists, and also one of the things I liked about it is it's probably some of the best action sequences of his career, most notably the skiing sequence in the Alps, I presume it was. That's one of the one of my favorite action sequences, certainly in all of Moore's films, but also in all of Bond. It's The Living Daylights try to sort of do something similar, but I mean, in terms of like a skiing sequence, skiing chase, this one was really, really good.
I mean, I'd also say that Spectre kind of tried to do something similar as well, even though it wasn't about skiing per se.
They had a cold mountain based chase. Yeah, I mean, these things tend to repeat themselves in a 24-film, 53-year series. I grant you.
Yes.
Davie, Joe, have you at least seen For Your Eyes Only?
Nope.
Davie, Joe, have you ever seen a Bond film besides?
That was going to be my next question.
I saw Skyfall. I saw GoldenEye.
Uh-huh. Is that because you played the N64 version of it, or did you actually see GoldenEye?
No, I saw the movie. I saw Octopussy.
Uh-huh.
And that may be all of them.
What? Seriously? That's your criteria for Bond?
My man, this is like James Bond we're talking about. Like, this is like a... Do you disagree that it's one of the most venerable franchises in film history?
I don't. I couldn't. How could I?
Dude, seriously.
You don't watch them.
How have you missed them? How have you gone this far?
I know. I don't.
So it's likely you have not seen any of the films on this list.
I knew this was going to happen.
Well, I mean, like, what's sad about this? I mean, first of all, I'm amazed. I expected the reverse. I expected like J Money to maybe avoid the Bond films.
Oh no, I love the Bond films. Don't get me started. It's fine.
Well, I mean, it's gonna come up because this is what we're talking about right now. So you're gonna have to watch all 5 of these films. Like, in addition to the Hunger Games films, you need to watch all 5 of this top 5 because I mean, first of all, if you haven't seen any of these 5, then you've not seen any good Bond films.
I like the ones I saw. I mean,
but I mean, like, imagine them being even better.
Okay.
And this is the one that I think everyone missed the boat on. And if it was done today, same plot, same everything, I think people would really like it. And I don't understand why even people missed Timothy Dalton as Bond. I think he was highly underrated, and he brought something to the character that he's brought almost the same thing that Daniel Craig is bringing now, but he did it 20 years earlier. And his Bond was actually probably closest to the original character. That maybe along with the first two or three Sean Connerys, maybe let's say the first 2 Sean Connerys. And this particular film is his second of 2 outings as Bond. It's called License to Kill, and that's Carey Lowell, now known for Law and Order. It's a fantastic film. He's dark and brooding. Now this film is kind of a revenge picture, and in that way it's a departure for the Bond franchise. But in a way that doesn't feel forced. It's directly related to something that happens in the film. So it's not like some made-up vendetta that comes from the past. So I appreciate it in that regard. It also has a great villain, another like highly underrated guy from history. And this guy is played by Robert Davie, sort of character actor. Throughout the years, you probably recognize him while looking at him. Maybe Throw Mama from the Train comes to mind when you look at Robert Davie. So good in this movie. And what's that?
The Goonies.
Oh, and the Goonies, of course. Was I wrong about Throw Mama from the Train?
I don't know. I guess I
you know what? That's what Anne Ramsey is in Throw Mama from the Train, and she's in the Goonies. She plays his mother from the Goonies.
That's a good point. Actually, there's a lot of connections there. Yeah.
No. And he's not in Throw Mama from the Train. He's in the Goonies. I just mixed up my Anne Ramsey movies.
Okay. The
you saved me there.
Are the 2 things I always think about him in.
You saved me. So anyway, I assume you've not seen this one either, Davie.
Correct.
This one has not 1 but 2 of the best action sequences in all of Bond. The opening and the ending is so good. This plane moment leads to a truck chase. It's outstanding. and nonstop action. It's really terrific. It's directed by John Glenn, who also directed Roger Moore and For Your Eyes Only. But some really, really great stuff. And I screened it a couple of years ago, and people were like, "This is a Bond film? I haven't even heard of this." And they loved it. They loved it. So that's my position. I think License to Kill is so underrated. I think Timothy Dalton overall is underrated, and I almost feel like the world wasn't ready for that dark a Bond.
No, I absolutely agree with you, JB. I completely agree with your assessment about Timothy Dalton. I think that he is the lost Bond more so than the other guy that nobody who remembers his name.
George Lazenby.
Yeah, besides that guy who showed up one time, I think that Timothy Dalton for some reason got a lot of flack for being what he did as Bond, and I think Timothy Dalton's a great Bond. I really like those movies. It's too bad he was only in a couple of them, unfortunately.
Yeah. Living Daylights is good too. License to Kill umped the ante to me, but yeah.
No, I think that those are both exceptional Bond films. I don't know if maybe looking back on them now, people would like them more than they did, than current audiences did. Maybe they were so used to what they'd already seen. Maybe they were so ready for more Roger Mooreism that they couldn't take on this new kind of interpretation of him. But
it's hard to explain. I don't know. I mean, I can't fathom it because it's so strong. And it holds up even today. I'd be curious to see what Davie says next week after he's watched all 5 of these.
It may take a little longer than that. You know what I should do is I should just start from the beginning and start with Dr. No.
Yeah.
There you go. I was about to ask you if you make sure you know what the first one was. Well, my number 2 is not Dr. No, but it's the one right after it. This is the second one. And these last 2 probably might be a little obvious, but I mean, or the obvious, what are generally considered the best Bonds. This is From Russia with Love, the second overall Bond film. And we want to talk about, in his first 2 Bond films, Dr. No and From Russia with Love, Sean Connery is a little bit darker than he is later in his tenure. He's still got his quips and everything and all his fun gadgets, but the plots are much smarter, significantly less silly, extremely intricate. And the other thing that, intricate in the way, a John Le Carre book might be. You know what I mean? Ian Fleming's original novels were a little more challenging. I'm missing a photo here, unfortunately. Shoot. Well, I was going to show you a photo of Robert Shaw, and to talk about sorry, I lost my train of thought. The performances in From Russia with Love might be the best in the entire series because they've got Robert Shaw as the main bad guy, even though he doesn't speak for the first 3/4 of the film. And for those of you who don't remember Robert Shaw, we talked about him a little bit last week in my top 5 of Steven Spielberg because he's best known maybe as Robert Quint in Jaws. Not Robert Quint, just Quint in Jaws.
No.
And he's also, from The Sting and A Man for All Seasons. He was Oscar nominated for A Man for All Seasons in 1966. So this is earlier in Robert Shaw's career, and he without saying much, he's very imposing and a terrific villain, and adds gravitas to villains the way that Mads Mikkelsen maybe did in Casino Royale. This is also another great actor, character actor over the years, German actress Lotte Lenya, probably best known for originating the role of Fraulein Kost, not Fraulein Kost, the older woman in Cabaret, the character was cut out of the movie, but if you know the stage version of Cabaret, Lotte Lenya was a big part of that. Here she plays Rosa Klebb, which as a henchwoman sort of has a famous history. She's sort of well known or well remembered within the Bond legacy. But Lotte Lenya is terrific and really the character has some silly qualities, but she really grounds it, I think, in a way that the rest of the series doesn't do. And even the Bond girl is a lot better actress than you're used to. This is going to be Danielle Bianchi as Tatiana, and she is really, really good. Subtle, terrific moments. I mean, and she doesn't have. Her name is Tatiana. She doesn't have a silly name or anything like that. Not that I mind the silly names. We'll get to that. But she felt more of a three-dimensional character as opposed to some of the other Bond girls, which even we talked about during Spectre. Some of the Bond girls were useless, and certainly Tatiana is not. And From Russia with Love, you've not seen this one, right, Davey?
That is correct.
J Money.
Yeah, no, I've seen this one. It's funny because I honestly think that this is I think that Dr. No is a fun movie in and of itself, but it's silly in a lot of ways because I think that the concept of it and the ultimate villain behind it is so prefabricated and kind of silly. Whereas From Russia with Love seems like the first time they try to bring in what is at that point cultural events into the idea of Bond, and there's a sense of realism because of that makes it much more interesting and appealing, I think, in a certain way. There are parts of this film that I think are definitely cribbing from Hitchcock. There are parts of it that I think are really influenced by
That's a really good point. That's a really
North
good
by
point.
Northwest, even to some degree, and certain other films around that time period, which I think makes it a lot more interesting, a lot more serious, and also a lot more introspective than some of the other films that you see with from that era. So I think it's overall a great film. I don't even think it's a great Bond film. I think it's actually a great film regardless.
Would you have put it higher on the list? Would you make it your number one? Did you sort of do you have a number one in mind for
Jeez,
you?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I mean, yeah, Moonraker is my number one.
He's kidding everybody. He's totally kidding.
Yeah,
So.
I love Moonraker. It's a Jaws redemption story. I think it's fantastic. I don't know. That's
Which is funny because there is a character in the Bond universe called Jaws as well.
That's true. That's true. I might. You know what? As you're putting it to me right now, I might make From Russia with Love my number one. I might. I hadn't really thought about it ahead of time, so I'm gonna pass it over back to you.
Let's see what my number one is, and this is a film that it's number one for many reasons, but I mean it's not only is it an important film, and I think it's where it's where Bond became the Bond that we know. It's the most iconic of them. It's a film we actually studied in college. We studied a Bond film in college, and it was this film, and for many different reasons. It is, I think it's the most iconic image in the Bond series. I think it's the most iconic film in the Bond series. I think it has everything that we think of and know, everything that made Bond in this film. And I think this is the film he did right after From Russia with Love.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it is it's the epitome of Sean Connery. Like, he's serious in Dr. No. There's some silly elements, I agree, in Dr. No. From Russia with Love is even more serious. So there's serious elements in these first two, and it's not that Goldfinger's not serious. But it has the perfect balance of silly aspects and seriousness and edge and everything that we come to know Bond to be. And it has the best henchman in all of the Bond series. It has the best, probably the best villain.
You mean pre-Dave
Goldfinger
Bautista, right?
himself. What's that?
You mean pre-Dave Bautista, right?
No, not pre-Dave Bautista. It has the best villain here. Here's Goldfinger himself. It has the best line in all of the Bond series, which is from this scene. Davy Joe, do you know the line?
No.
Yes, Money, give it to me.
Yes, you know the line, Davy Joe. Come on, you know the line.
This
J
is
Money, do you expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Best line in all, and of course it has, if not the best Bond girl, she might be the best Bond girl because she is sort of a badass. But if she's not the best Bond girl, she's certainly got the best goddamn name.
Yeah.
Of any Bond girl. Davy Joe, at least tell me you know her name.
What is it? What's the name?
You know her name. You know her name. You do. You just don't know you know her name.
J Money.
It's Pussy Galore.
Pussy Galore is this character's name, played by Honor Blackman. So point being, Goldfinger has all the elements. Pardon the pun. It is the ultimate Bond film, and I think the template from which everything else came from. And they never, I think it's fair to say they never found that balance in ever since. It's also the best theme song
Yes.
of any of the 24 theme songs.
I absolutely agree with you. I also think that it's not even just the best theme song. I think it has the best score. Like,
Yes,
I think,
John Barry took
Yeah.
over for Monty Norman,
yes.
and it took the Bond score to whole new levels. Monty Norman composed like the theme, but the way that John Barry used it in Goldfinger changed everything.
I thought it was a brilliant score. I really love what they did with that in general. So yeah, there's a lot of elements about Goldfinger that are fantastic. I own it on Blu-ray. I think it's an amazing film in and of itself. So I will say this. I think that it's interesting because to me, it represented both some of the most I don't want to say misogynistic, some of the most chauvinistic like scenes you've ever seen on screen, and some of the most incredibly aggressively feminist and sort of like autonomous female figures you've seen on screen. I love the fact that there is that sort of like crazy a fight in between these kind of characters in the screen, because on one hand, the first half of Goldfinger has a really demure female character. The second half has a really incredibly aggressive and very independent female figure, and I love that fact about it as well. I love the main villain. I love the style of it. I love the fact that Bond doesn't actually technically save the day at the end. I mean, he kind of does, but another character steps in at the very last second and actually fixes it. I mean, there are so many qualities to this. The fight with Oddjob at the very end, that's
So good.
The way that is choreographed, fantastic.
So
Unbelievable. Yeah.
And
so
well ahead of its time in terms of stunt choreography and fight choreography.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So.
And I mean, but the hat is such a great device. I mean, so good.
Absolutely.
And it's legendary. Except everybody knows it except Davie, apparently.
Dude, you gotta watch this film. You gotta watch it. You gotta see what it's like.
I'm open to it. I'm not.
Dr. No was the one I was thinking about for number 5, but then I just felt like I'd be very heavy with Sean Connery, and Casino Royale was really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, so what should Davey do? Should he go in order, or should he just watch the 5?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a really good question, because I mean, there's a lot of good films there that we didn't really.
I mean,
talk
I
about.
would say maybe start with Dr. No, then watch them and watch these 5 in addition to Dr. No. So watch 6, Dr. No, From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, and then jump to. For Your Eyes Only, jump to License to Kill, and then actually throw in Living Daylights. Watch both Daltons.
Yeah.
Living Daylights, License to Kill, and then you can jump to Casino Royale.
I want to say that A View to a Kill also has one of my favorite scores, not the theme song, but actual score.
What was it? Did you say?
A View to a Kill.
Oh, you're not a Duran Duran guy.
Not the theme song, not the Duran Duran.
No,
song.
I know you're not a Duran Duran guy.
No, I like it. I just don't. I find that song I actually really like Duran Duran a lot. I don't like that song that much, but the actual score itself, there's a couple movements in the score that I think are like quintessential Bond listening. If you're gonna listen.
Was that still John Barry at that time, or I mean, I don't remember that score as well.
I don't know who it was. I really don't. Also, Grace Jones, who's an kind of an amazing Bond account. Oh, I love her. Are you kidding me?
Oh my God, no. We were so close to being in sync on this segment.
How can you not love Grace Jones? She is insane.
Yes, that is exactly why I don't like her. And I've got a Grace Jones story for you another time, like a real life Grace Jones story.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
I can only imagine.
I can only imagine.
I mean, Grace Jones just felt like a bit of a gimmick to me, and that.
Well, she was a very popular figure at the time, so she was there because she was a very popular figure at the time, And Grace Jones is Grace Jones. She's not going to act in a Bond film. She's going to be Grace Jones in a Bond film. But frankly, I like Grace Jones.
Generally good qualities.
Yes, that's fine. Christopher Walken? Come on, Christopher Walken, Davy Joe. You love Christopher Walken.
Yeah, no, I do.
Right.
So you're saying Time to Kill's the one I missed on the list?
No, it's not my favorite Bond film by far. I just happen to like there are certain qualities about it that I really like a lot.
Is there? I mean, so you seem to be pleased with all the films. Are there would you order them differently, or is there one that you feel like I left off?
I'm thinking. I mean, there's a lot of films to go through.
24 to be exact.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously we disagree with Skyfall. If I was going to pick one in terms of the Daniel Craig era, I would pick Skyfall over Casino Royale.
Most people would. I think in 10 years, most people will drift more towards my side of that fence, but we'll see.
We'll talk again in 2025, and we'll see how we feel about this.
Well, by then, Davey will have seen them.
Also,
Right.
by the way,
Right.
I'm not shitting you. I do like Moonraker. Moonraker is a ridiculous movie. It's possibly the most ridiculous Bond movie ever made ever, and that is what is so fantastic about it. It is the height of ridiculousness for this genre.
Well, Thunderball is another example of a film that starts out really interestingly. Like, it's another one where I really like the first two acts, but when they try to like have this big finale, and I believe Thunderball is the one where there's this underwater, like spear like shooting fight, and that's where it starts to lose me. Yeah,
that's fair. I mean, there's a lot of things in the Roger Moore category, and I like Roger Moore as a James Bond, but him as James Bond, they seem to embrace the ridiculousness of the idea of the genre in a way that was beyond everybody else's kind of take on it.
Now, I mean, I agree that Timothy Dalton is underrated, and you know what? If he'd gotten more chances, he might have had a chance to surpass. But I mean, can we all agree Sean Connery is still the best Bond? I mean, are we in agreement on that? Just given like, you know, the way that his films ranked in the top 5.
I mean, I like Sean Connery the best, but also because I think I like that era of Bond in certain ways the best. Because
I mean, that's sort of what I'm saying, but I think they go hand in hand too. You know what I mean? But it's about balance.
Well, yes, but only because the character himself is made for that era. Ultimately, like he is made to be a Cold War spy. Ultimately, and I think that it's a quality it doesn't quite translate as well in this modern time.
But in fairness, if Timothy Dalton had some more chances, like we might be talking about him in a different way.
Absolutely.
I'd also like to point out that there were no Pierce Brosnan films even considered for my top 5. I hope you're okay with that.
I mean, I don't have a problem with GoldenEye. I think that Pierce Brosnan was okay. I don't think he was a terrible Bond or anything like that. I just
even Davy Joe liked GoldenEye.
I did. I've never not liked one of these movies.
Who should be the next Bond?
I would have loved Luther to be the next Bond. What's his face there?
Now, here's the thing. Everyone wants Idris Elba. That's like everyone's saying that.
I love him.
He's a great actor. Not the point. The point is, also David Oyelowo is getting some attention as well.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
But here's the problem. I feel like if they're going to start over, they need to go young. Because, I mean, the thing is, already by the third film in Skyfall, they're giving Daniel Craig, shit about his age, within the context of the film.
Yeah.
If you really want a franchise, and now you've rebooted this character to the point where Spectre is the second most expensive movie ever made. I don't know if you guys... I don't know how or why, and probably a lot of it had to do with that Mexico City scene, because a lot of that was done practically. Yeah. That was not digital.
What about the desert scene in Africa? Was that not
very possible? I mean, I haven't seen their budget, so I can't say where they were spending their money. But I'm just telling you, like they spent a lot of money on Spectre, counting on it to do well. So point being that they need a new Bond. It's going to be like people are going to follow who the new Bond's going to be. And first of all, most of the time, where they went awry with Pierce Brosnan is he was already too old, and he had already established enough of a track record. You know what I mean? And he'd already played a similar character in Remington Steele and all that stuff, which is why they wanted him in the first place. But it was played out. Daniel Craig was fairly fresh. He had done some movies like Munich and Road to Perdition, but smaller roles in each of those movies, and it was a fresh-ish face. I think they need something similar, and they need to go younger so it can last longer.
Well, I also think that Daniel Craig looked vulnerable. I think that Pierce Brosnan was in a style of Roger Moore, where he looked like a very debonair, suave guy who kind of had things together.
Yeah, no, Daniel Craig in that sense was an inspired choice because it was a little bit off, he was
a little off-brand internally, but he seemed like damaged goods, and I think that worked for what they were doing.
Yeah, for sure, and I don't mind any of that. I just think if they're going to start over, they need to start younger.
So who would you cast now?
I mean, I agree. Idris Elba, David, they're both great actors. There's no issue with either of them personally. I'm just saying the best thing for the franchise is to start young.
Sure. But if you were to cast a young actor for this role, where would you go?
Yeah, I have to really think about that. Now, I mean, do you feel the pressure that it needs to be a minority at this point, given all the pressure for these other guys?
No, I think it'd be nice to actually have some variety, and I would love to see somebody else be given the helm to do it. But it's not about a minority to me. It's just whoever I think is going to be a compelling character. It's like
well, I mean, if he didn't do the Kingsman, then Taron Egerton would be like
Oh yeah.
maybe an obvious choice if you're going to go younger. I feel like maybe it's too similar. What's that?
He's really young, though. I mean, my problem with him in Kingsman is that he looks like he's 16 the entire time. I can't buy that.
Well, he is young in that.
He's too young for me. Like in 10 years, I could see him in that situation, certainly. But.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like I'm intrigued. Like I'm intrigued by the idea of an orphan Bond recruited into this world. You know what I mean? Like I'm intrigued by that story. We haven't seen that. That seems like it has potential for mining. So. Anyway, that was a text message.
Okay.
Because all of a sudden, ever since I got the new hard drive, text messages ding on my computer now.
Well, there you go. You're a popular guy.
So you can maybe teach me how to fix it when I come to New York, which is very soon. So here's my last little trivia question for you guys. Out of the top 50 highest-grossing films of all time, adjusted for inflation, only 2 of them are Bond films. Which 2 are the highest-grossing Bond films of all time? Adjusted for inflation.
I'm going to say Goldfinger's one of them.
Goldfinger is one of them. Goldfinger is the second of the 2. There's one that's grossed more. And it's not one that you'd expect.
Didn't Casino Royale do real well?
Bear in mind the adjusted for inflation aspect.
No, I got you.
Casino Royale did well, but adjusted for inflation, these older films zoom past it. And Skyfall grossed more than any of the Craig ones.
Oh, did it? Okay.
I mean, you saw it. You didn't see the others, so if that tells you anything.
There you go.
You're our everyman.
I try.
J Money's raking his brain.
I'm just trying to second guess myself on this stuff. Adjusted for inflation.
What does your instinct tell you?
Well, I want to say it's something in the Connery range, but I could be wrong.
Is it Roger Moore?
It is Sean Connery.
It's Connery? Okay. Is it Thunderball?
It is Thunderball, the highest-grossing Bond film of all time, adjusted for inflation. That's your little tidbit for the day. All right, guys, we have 2 minutes left. Closing thoughts. Anything? Do you have something you wanted to discuss? They brought up earlier. Do you?
Yes. JB.
Yeah.
Did you see the UFO?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what you're talking? Really? So on Saturday night, you did not see the crazy, weird phenomena in the sky over LA that everybody else was tweeting about?
Nope. I have no idea. This is the first I'm hearing of it.
Really? Okay. Well, so on Saturday night, around I think 6:30 p.m., maybe 7:30 p.m. your time.
Saturday actually is CMS here. We were screening a film.
Ah, okay. Outside, there was a crazy phenomenon in the sky, which got reported on national news later on, of this weird sort of like light in the sky that ended up being a weird glowing blue sort of explosion almost. And the Twitterverse was alight for quite a while, apparently, because of people freaking out over what the hell it could possibly be. The Navy says it was testing a missile, and I'm just curious
story.
If you have a different opinion. But you missed it, so never mind. I'm just curious.
Yeah, why would I be outside on a Saturday night?
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
It's it's like 60 degrees outside. It's freezing. This is the first time I've worn long sleeves in a broadcast since Child 44.
You can't watch TV outside.
And it was the same exact. I wore the same exact. This is the same exact thing I wore for the Child 44 broadcast.
It's true what they say. You can stay in California until you get too soft. JB, you've gotten too soft.
Well, luckily I fly back to New York tomorrow. So, and I will be in New York for 2 whole months. So this is my last broadcast here in LA in 2015. I'll be in New York with these guys. Well, at least with J Money for the next 2 months. And So all my broadcasts will be in New York, and in 2 months that adds up to maybe 1 or 2 broadcasts, right, guys?
That's possible.
Yeah. But you're gonna be back there for Oscar time, right?
I'll be back in LA for Oscar time. That's correct.
We should come out. We should come out and see you.
Oh, do you want to come to the big? I throw a big Oscar party every year.
All right, we'll talk. We'll talk. That sounds good.
Well, I was going to say you guys should come out. We should go to TCM Classic Festival.
That's right.
Remember we talked about that?
Yeah. All right.
All right, so it's time for me to plug the next show. November 23rd is our next broadcast. Our current feature that we're going to talk about, our 2015 film, is going to be the last Hunger Games film, Mockingjay Part 2, and we're going to talk about that one at the next broadcast. That's going to be November 23rd at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, but I'll be Eastern, so that's really the only time that matters. We won't be bi-coastal anymore. We'll all be East Coast. And, of course, we've got the indie to talk about and the classic, which clues will be coming as the weeks go along. So that's 2 weeks from tonight, November 23rd, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Davie, Joe, want to say goodbye?
Bye.
Anything from you, J Money?
Goodbye.
Long night's finally over. It's 8 o'clock here in the West Coast. It's even later in the East Coast. Have a great night. Have a great week, everybody. And I'll see you in New York.